We're celebrating International Self-Care Day. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things to different people, but to women, it means that you put yourself first. To women, it means for once you take that time to do what you want to do that you know is going to make you feel better. Lisa Helfman with HEB is here today to talk about what she did for her own self-care and how she beat an addiction that, unfortunately, too many of us have. When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story, so please share with your family and friends. And consider supporting our mission. Your donation can help save the life of an uninsured woman. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Join us as we hear another story and we answer those tough questions that you may have. Hi, I'm Dorothy Gibbons, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Rose. And today we are going to talk about your breast with Lisa Helfman. She's made such a difference in our community and continues to make that difference every day. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Dorothy. It's such a pleasure to be here.
You've really had huge changes in your life to be in the frame of mind you are right now and to be doing what you are right now. You know, I heard you do a talk once that said, I used to live a life without limits. And tell us what that was like.
It was very busy. You know, I want to start by saying I am living my best life today, and that's a phenomenal place to be. And knowing how it was makes it even sweeter. So years ago, you know, I really was suffering from an addiction to busyness that I just tried to achieve more and more to get the affirmation to make myself feel good. I really focused on the next goal, the next step, the next metric. And I feel like society tells us if you just do the next big thing, you're going to be so successful. It's going to bring happiness and joy and all the things you want if you just hit this. So, I mean, I fortunately was good at a few things, I guess. And I just kept trying and working and never stopped and thought, really, if someone else can do it, why can't I do it too? And that was this mentality I had. And I didn't realize that my body was suffering from that mentality. And instead of respecting my body, I would get mad at it. And I would be like, oh my God, why are you getting sick again? And, you know, I have a very different mentality today.
Oh, and when you talked about busyness, I mean, you had everything down to the second almost. You know, she was a top of her class at Tulane, finished college in 3 years, went on to be the rising star of Vincent and Elkins, and then moved in a very interesting way away from that. I think you went on to Texas Children's, and then you founded an organization that is just beyond fascinating and ahead of its time, very much ahead of its time. Tell us a little bit about Brighter Bites.
Well, when I was at Texas Children's, I was an attorney for them, and then I started a real estate department. And then those two roles, I was able to see the healthcare system in entirety. So it wasn't just, oh, we were building a clinic here or we were doing that. I saw how we were serving every part of the community with people with means that they could pay, people with Medicaid, and people with no insurance at all. And I started noticing the health disparities in the more lower income, underserved population. And these were childhood obesity. Our diabetes clinic had lines out the door, per se. I mean, just all of these preventable illnesses in children were where our clinics had the longest waiting lists. And at the same time, I was doing a fruit and vegetable co-op in my house. My boys at this point, Drew and Nathan, were 3 and 6. And I noticed this dramatic change in their eating habits, all because of this exposure to fresh fruits and vegetables. And this pinnacle moment happened when Drew was 6. He's now turning 18 this month, Dorothy. 18. And he was 6 years old, and he called me over and he's like, do I have to eat this? We were at a birthday party, and I looked down at his plate, and it was cake. And he was like, it's too sweet, Mommy. Do they have fruit? And I thought, this child has 2 heads, because what adult gives up cake for fruit at a birthday party, much less a 6-year-old? And then I was participating in American Leadership Forum, and we were talking about, it was right at the Affordable Care Act, and when more people were getting access to insurance. But I thought, we're not really going to help solve the healthcare crisis if we don't start working on prevention and taking control of our own health and caring for our own bodies. And that's where Brighter Bites was born. And I thought, if I can do this in my house, how do I do this for families in under-resourced neighborhoods that might not have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, much less know how to use them?
Right. So you actually started with Lisa.
Yes, I did.
When you figured this all out, that you needed to eat differently, and then moved it to your home.
Yes.
And now out into the community. What did that take to really, you're now in everywhere.
Not everywhere, but 10 cities across the country.
10 cities, that's pretty great. Really impacting the core issue of what goes on in health disparities, and that is what we eat.
Yes.
So how did you move it from that American Leadership Forum, which, by the way, as an old fellow too, I think that's one of the most needed organizations our city could ever have. And every class you hear about these wonderful things that came up. So how did it go from that to where you are now?
Well, I'll back up for just 1 second and say I'm really passionate about this issue. And it is because I had such a health change myself. I don't often talk about it, but this in particular, but I think for our listeners today, it would be meaningful. I had very serious stomach issues, irritable bowel syndrome, if I can talk about that. I had 5 sinus infections a year, horrible seasonal allergies. I added more fruits and vegetables into my diet and realized dairy was a culprit for me. So I removed that, and I never got sick again.
Never.
I've never had another sinus infection. It's been 12 years. I think actually longer. It's been 13 years now. And I don't even know when allergy season is because I never even get a stuffy nose.
Lisa, that's amazing.
I know.
Every day we come into work, someone's saying, oh, it's all those allergies out there. That is amazing. And it was just the change in your diet. You're convinced of that.
Oh, because I did nothing else. I was already exercising. I was leading what everybody else would say a healthy life. I was thin. It wasn't like even a weight issue. But I was putting things in my body, a lot of processed food to stay thin, diet soda, and then dairy was, everybody's body reacts differently to different things. But for me, that was it. And then when you give yourself the good stuff, you kind of crowd out the bad. So eating berries every morning for breakfast, Swiss chard in the evening, things like that. It just, all the nutrients added up, and my health just got better. I won't say I've never gotten a stomach flip bug or anything like that. I did get COVID, but I've never had any kind of upper respiratory allergy, sinus, never again. And my stomach is really healthy as well. So with that kind of passion that food can make that kind of difference in your life, I was on a mission to help everybody else see how it could affect them too. So I actually came up with the idea for Brighter Bites sitting at a Texans game with Drew and Nathan's dad. And I thought, if I can do this in our house, how do we do this in these other neighborhoods? I went back to my ALF class. I pitched the idea while we were on the mountain in Colorado. I thought everybody's going to think I am insane, but I don't care. And they said, you know what, let us introduce you to some people in the community. So first person I called actually on my own was the founder of the KIPP schools. And I had been their bond lawyer back at Vincent Elkins. I said, I have this crazy idea. Will you let me pilot it at KIPP? And they said, yes, come on. And I thought, oh my God, I don't have any produce and I don't have any nutrition education, because that was the formula I came up with. Produce distribution, so create a co-op in every school that we were in, nutrition education for both the kids and the families, and then a fun food experience, kind of like you'd find at your favorite H-E-B. I wasn't working there, but I was still a big fan. And we do a food sample. And so the parents and the kids would get to taste something made out of fresh produce and see that it actually tasted good. So I called him and he was like, oh, you'll figure it out and we'll give you a school next year. Just come back to me. And I was like, what? Figure it out. I don't even understand what you're... Okay, I better get on this. So then next, someone from my class introduced me to Brian Green, the head of the Houston Food Bank, who is a prince of a guy and a visionary. And I was so naive back then, Dorothy. He said, we'll be your produce distributor. And I said, you have fresh food at the food bank? And he was like, oh my God, Lisa, have you never walked around the food bank? And I said, well, I volunteered, but I always packed up cans. I didn't know. So he walked me through the warehouse, all the cold storage, and my mind was blown. And I said, well, who do you want me to work with on your team? And he said, I will take this on personally with you. So he has mentored me the last 11 years, every step of the way. And from there, I was introduced to Dr. Shrila Sharma at University of Texas School of Public Health. She's an epidemiologist there and now also the new director for their Center of Equity, Health Equity. And she's focused on childhood obesity. And she said, great, I have the nutrition education you're looking for, and I have researchers to study this, because I knew enough to be dangerous that if we didn't have any data on what we were doing, it would be hard to get funding. And then I wasn't going to get paid to do this. So if it didn't work, I didn't want to do it. So anyway, she said, I just need $35,000 and then we can get started. And I said, I'm sorry, this is a pro bono project. We have no money. She said, well, I have researchers and I work for a large university and we can't do that. So, I went back to Texas Children's and they said, you know what, Blue Cross Blue Shield has Healthy Kids, Healthy Families grant. Why don't you talk to them? And I said, okay. And they said, apply for $5,000. I said, $5,000 not going to get me anywhere. I need $35,000. So I did, and they granted us our first grant. And I want to tell you, 10 years, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary and launched our 10th city. And Blue Cross is still with us and granting us money today. They've been an incredible partner. And so that's how we started. And we started with one KIPP school on the east end of downtown Houston, KIPP Explore, with 2 third grade and fourth grade classes. And it's just been this incredible ride. And now we're coast to coast from California to New York City.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is great. But what a story. You really got community involved with this. I mean, I'm just fascinated. It took this, it took Brian, it took the school, it took Blue Cross Blue Shield, all of that coming together for this one purpose. That is really such a lesson. We really want to do something in the community. We've got to have community.
Yes, I think you have to meet people where they're at. That's always been my theme of this organization, is meet people where they're at, treat them in a dignified way. But I also didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I knew there was a lot of resources out there. They just weren't being brought together to achieve the results that we wanted. And I wasn't going to raise money to build a warehouse, buy trucks, find produce everywhere. We've sent out over 50 million pounds of produce. And to do that without a distribution, group of, now we have them in every city, of course, and we don't just have food banks, but we have food service distributors, we have grocery stores, we have the large farms that directly donate to us now. I mean, we are very ingrained in the produce industry itself, but it takes a lot to move food around the country.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. What a great story.
I also approached it not knowing anything. And I have a funny story. So Cisco Foods read an article in the Houston Chronicle, actually, that Brian wrote about Brighter Bites years ago. And the head of produce for Cisco Foods cold called us and said, I want to know more about this. What are you doing? So I went and met with him and I said, right now I just got a big federal grant. This was years ago. My team would kill me for saying this out loud. I said, we don't need money today. What I need today, we do need money today, by the way, in 2023. But what I do need today, years ago, was I need to learn the produce industry. I need you to explain to me how product moves, because the food banks get a lot of product, but they get a lot of what we call the hard seven. So carrots, onions, potatoes, bananas. And that's not going to change people's behavior. If you get a bag of onions and carrots every week, you're not going to get excited about produce. We need dragon fruit and berries and spinach and all these things for kids to like. So anyways, so he would sit with me for hours on end explaining to me how the product moved around the country and how there was farms, distributors, suppliers. I mean, it's a lot of layers here.
Yeah.
And one day he looked at me and he goes, why do you act so dumb all the time? And I said, excuse me? And he's like, I'm on to you. You're an attorney. You're running real estate at HEB. I mean, you're clearly a smart person. And I said, but I'm not smart to your industry. And if I act like I know it all, I'm not going to learn anything. And so I think just taking this approach and allowing everyone else to be the experts that they are and knowing I didn't know all the answers really helped me get to where I am today.
Wow, what a good piece of advice and what a great story to remember. That is amazing. You're a founder now of Brighter Bites. Are you still as involved? This sounds like more than a full-time job.
Well, I am involved. I'm the chair of the board, but we have a team of over 100 paid employees across the country. And this man, Rich Dackman, who was at Cisco Foods, is the CEO of the organization now. He retired from Cisco and he runs it full time. We have a team. Some of them have been with us the full 10 years. Others have joined along the way. And so I've never been paid to work on Brighter Bites, but it has rewarded me in the biggest ways possible ever. And that's really how I met HEB. So I just wear a lot of hats and get a lot of help, and we do it together.
So, Lisa, one of the reasons I was so excited about you being on our show was you have learned the hard way about self-care. And this whole show is about helping women to really understand the importance of taking care of themselves. And it goes way beyond mammograms and way beyond anything that we could talk about from a breast point of view. But it all starts with how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves. And I want you to give us that 3, what do you call them, rules or codes you live by, or talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, society tells us we're going to hit all these metrics and we're going to be happy. But I learned along the way that we actually have to work on ourselves, be kind, find the joy. And I'll talk through all those things one by one. And that's really what makes us happy. And then the rest kind of falls in line. And it all happens as it should. Number 1, take care of yourself and figure out what that means. Okay, so for everyone, if you are currently sedentary, just walking around the block a couple times could be a great goal. This year I got back, I run, but I hadn't been running a lot. And my partner and I, we ran a half marathon. So that was a good goal for me. And it was attainable and not too stressful. But for some, it could just be walking around the block. And that would be amazing because you're doing more than you did the day before. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. It's so much, not just exercise, but it's more what you put in your mouth, right? Everybody eats. That's something we all do. And what you focus on in eating is really how you get healthy. And so you have to figure out what that is for you. So is it reducing sugars? Is it adding more protein? Is it adding more water? What I think in all of this is adding more nutrients. No one's ever going to say, oh, that was a bad thing, right? And that's why I've always focused on fruits and vegetables and limiting processed food. So the fresher you go, there was years I was vegan, but I eat plenty of chicken and fish now, and I enjoy it, and I feel healthy from it. But I also add berries and vegetables and things into my diet all the time. And so I've learned over the years what really makes sense for me. And if I eat and if I get off track, I don't feel so good and I'm not as happy all day long. So, I think these basics that we think, people are always talking about, doctors like, eat better, exercise more. But it's really that simple. Like, just get back to the basics. What makes your body feel good? What is fueling me to be my best self? And so that's part of it. And then the other thing is sleep.
Oh, yes.
Sleep is so important. And I wasn't doing that years ago at the level I should. I was getting up super early, running super early so I could work for a couple hours before the kids got up. Then I did the kids. Then I went to work. Then it was this constant like spiral of exhaustion. And then I did brush my teeth every night, but I would not even want to because I was so tired. I couldn't even get through that part of the day. And what I realized is that sleep has to take paramount. Even last night, I was invited to a fabulous event that I really wanted to go to. And I said, you know what? I can't. I'm going to be with Dorothy tomorrow, have a big presentation, I have a huge speech on Tuesday. And although I know I love being with you at these tennis championships, I can't do that. And I got in bed at 8:00 and I wound down and had a phenomenal night's sleep. And I got up early and I started preparing, and like I had a better mindset because of that sleep. So self-care, number one. Number two, pursue.
Let's stop just 1 minute, because that took a lot of self-awareness too.
Yes.
I'm just so fascinated with how you found all this out on your own. But you decided to let yourself talk. That is so encouraging. Anybody can do that. I mean,
anybody can do that.
And whatever we can do, we can do. If you can do it, just do it. That is just, and you're making it sound like anyone could attain it. So that's what's exciting about it.
And I guess I should add, for those who don't really know me, is that I'm 47 now. And when I was in my mid-20s and started working at Vincent Elkins, after a history of this, I really was throwing up in the bathroom on a regular basis from stress. I was having steroids all the time for these sinus infections because, I didn't have time to get sick, so much less get well. So I was like, how can you get me well the fastest? How can I move through this? What can I do? And so I was pretty much at rock bottom at that point, right? Maybe I shouldn't say that, because my health could have gotten a lot worse if I hadn't have figured it out, right? I could have had a very chronic or terminal illness, and I stopped before that happened, but it was pretty miserable. Mm-hmm. So today, to know, okay, I have to stop, or you know what, I have to cancel this meeting because I have to go back to work at 6:00 to go to an event and represent the company. Or a lot of times, kind of my next point is follow what brings you joy, is I take off and I go to my son's tennis match at 2 p.m. And I know that I'm back helping out HEB at 5 or 6 that night, but I am going to shamelessly be with my children for the hours that mean the most to them. And that's how I balance. And I don't ask for permission, but I do happen to work for the greatest company ever that is so family friendly. They will encourage me to do these things. But I think it's this great balance that I've been able to achieve, because I don't want to miss out on my children. They're now, about to turn 18, and Nathan is 14. And that's what it's all about to me, is these little moments that after my son walks off the tennis court, he's like, did you see that shot? And I'm like, yeah, I did. It was incredible, you know?
And you were telling me that you actually, on your calendar, you put the time in before your week starts. I think that's the best advice of all. You make that the priority. Whatever you need to do with your kids or yourself, just putting it in the calendar is also that other way of saying it's okay. You have permission to do this.
That's right.
Isn't that kind of, what's the word? Women need that permission, it seems like. And then when we discover we don't really need it, then we can make decisions that are great.
That's right.
Now, all right, go back with living with integrity.
This is kind of an interesting one, and it wouldn't be what people would think would be so front and center in my life. But to me, living with integrity means that everyone gets the same Lisa. And it means that I show up for my children the same way I'm showing up for this podcast today, or news interview that I'm doing later in the week, or a speech in front of hundreds of people, but that everyone in my life is getting the same Lisa. And if I pack my days so full that by tonight, I'm so tired, I can't function with Nathan and Drew and my new husband, Lee, that they're not getting the same person. And I'm not going to get the same kind of relationship with them that I'm getting with the community. Or if I give everything to my family and I blow off my role at HEB, then the community's not getting enough Lisa. And that's not fair either, because I've signed up to do that. And so for me, I just don't, I don't want to be that person that's all shiny on the outside and then on the inside is kind of a mess. And so it's that I'm showing up for everyone the same. I'm balancing my day in a way that happens. And then also that if I want to live in a joyful world, that I'm authentically joyful. And that means talking kindly to myself every day, not belittling myself or taking on too much or not being thin enough or smart enough or looking good enough or giving the best speech of my life at any given thing, whatever the metric is for the day, whatever that marker is, that I'm like, you know what, I showed up, I did my best, and that's great, and let's go on to the next thing. And that is so important to me. And I was so hard on myself before that not only was I judgmental on myself, but I was projecting that to others. I was really judgmental of everything around me, myself and everyone else. And once I realized that I should be kinder to myself, it just permeated it through everything I was doing.
And you can see that. You can really tell that about you. I thought that was some of the best advice that I've heard in a long time. Be the same for everyone. Can't tell you how many times I've gone home and my husband has said, take off your CEO hat. You're home now. And it's true. You need to think about how you're showing up for different people. And congratulations on your marriage. That's so neat.
Thank you.
Yes, I tell you what. See, that's another thing. So many women think that romance and all of that is just for the young. And, you're 47 and just made that happen in your life. And I was 53. And, when you find that special person, that adds so much to your life.
So much. That unconditional love and that comfort at home, it's really second to none.
And you've also got to create that on your own. So, I'm just hearing so many great things. When you said, I didn't have time to be sick, let alone have time to be well. Wow. What an eye-opening statement. Didn't have time to be sick, let alone time to be well. Ooh.
But the truth is, we have time to do anything we want to do.
That's so true. That is.
And I think we get caught up in this hamster wheel of life where we think we have to be here, we have to be there, we have to get this done and this done and this done. And we forget we have choice. And we do have choice on how we spend our day. And now I prioritize a lot of good stuff all day long. And not in the way of my responsibilities, but I just make sure that I'm spending my life the way I want to be spending it. And that knowing I have a choice, and if something doesn't get done, the sky's probably not going to fall. I'm not actually that important in this world. And it's just created a much better world for me.
Well, I don't know. How do your sons feel about it? You're really pretty famous. You are.
Dorothy.
In our community, you are. Wow. How do they relate to your public presence?
I laugh that they probably roll their eyes a lot. But my friends tell me that they seem very proud of me and that I try to involve them in as much as possible. So if we're going to an event, I'll bring them with me. If we have an opportunity to show up together at a parade, or the other day, I had a news interview for our new Astros ice cream. It's quite delicious, by the way. In moderation, you can still have ice cream. I mean, it really isn't good for me, but I did take a taste and it's delicious. And I had to do a news interview, and the guy said, we have to do it Tuesday or Wednesday. And I said, I have a 30-minute block after I pick up Nathan from school. I can do it in the store near his school if y'all are open to that. And they were. And so Nathan came with me to HEB and he got a snack and he sat in the conference room and we did the thing. And then we went home together and we talked about it and we laughed about it. And he met the reporter and we had a great time. And so I think that they know who I am. They know what I do. They know me at the core. And so to be able, they ride in the Thanksgiving Day parade, they come to events when I think there's meaningful speakers or when it's just someone they like Drew Brees. And I know I'm going to be cool for them getting to meet him. Yes. But the truth is, it's all one life to me. I no longer compartmentalize it. And so I think by them understanding, again, the real me and who I am and giving them enough time, that it matters, and I show up for them, and so they show up for me.
So this addiction to busyness that you had, that is so current and common especially as you're coming up in your career. So you were able to get rid of that. And I think one of the things you said was how we're rewarded for busyness.
That's right. Society tells us that we are rewarded with the next pay raise or the next promotion or a new car, new house. And after you get those, it doesn't really change your life. You just kind of live into them and you keep going. But that joyful moment of that hug with your child or, a magical week that we just had in Mexico City as a family after we got married, like all those things I will actually never forget. Right. And it's figuring out actually where the reward is. And maybe as a society, we're a little off base and we should focus on other things. And I can't tell you as a listener or Dorothy, what are those things that bring you joy? But I spent a lot of time just actually figuring out physically when I felt joyful. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I thought they came at the big moments. But during COVID, I remember watching a TV show with my son and him just leaning over and putting his head on my shoulder. Oh. And it was so special. Or singing me a preview of his solo at school or watching him in his tennis match. Things that aren't that big of a deal. They're just everyday activities, but they were that connection that brought me joy. And
those are the things that we feel.
Yes.
More than
Great
we
point.
think. We feel them. And I was thinking earlier about how I go through Brennan a lot, and I love stopping at that HEB. What is it about HEB that when you go in, you feel different?
I think we put people first every step of the way. We take care of, we call our employees partners because that's how we all feel. We walk in, we're like, hi, partner. And it's from the top all the way to the parking lot attendant. From Charles Butt to people working there in high school just to, get some extra spending money or even make ends meet. And we care about people in such a way. HEB is now opening primary care clinics that have nutritionists, that have physical therapists. And now if you're an employee of HEB, a partner, you can access mental health services inside or outside of network for just $15, no matter who the provider is. We just really care about people in hopes that they're going to care about our customers, their community, and just create a more positive, kind, and joyful environment. So I'm happy to hear that you're feeling that firsthand, because that's who we want to be, and I'm glad we're showing up that way.
And of course, HEB has helped us so much with our patient navigation program. And I think I was fascinated the first time you ever came to visit us here at the Rose. You understood the whole idea of a person having a patient navigator and needing that navigator during a serious illness. And I would tell you, HEB was the first to fund that program. And, every year I go, I want that program fully funded. There's got to be a way. And, y'all just set the bar. Y'all set the pace. It's great to have that kind of true community support.
Well, we're a huge fan of what you do, Dorothy. And I'm not just saying that because we're on the podcast, but you're literally helping level up the healthcare playing field for everyone. And no one should be without services just because of their zip code. And you make sure that happens. And just like I didn't know the produce industry, how can someone know what it takes to go through the world of cancer without experts? Mm-hmm. And you're providing that, and you're doing it in a warm, kind way where it's approachable and people understand it. And so we're a fan for life, Dorothy. We believe in what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to us. One last word about how you speak to yourself.
I just try and speak kindly. And guess what? I mess up every once in a while. And the mean thoughts do come back, but I catch myself pretty quickly. And then I'm like, nope, not going there today. Today, I am choosing to focus on the gratitude that is my life, the joy, how grateful I am that I have these beautiful children, this amazing husband, this incredible job where I literally get paid to help people every day.
Yes, and that ability to say, I'm not going to criticize myself today, just for today, just for the next hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just put that, not today. Thank you, not today. And it resets me every time.
Well, I tell you what, you've made our day just wonderful. I can't wait for all of my employees to hear this. You know, I have a lot of women.
Yes.
I have a lot of women that are of a certain age that they really are tired at times. And I know that what you're saying is going to really speak to them. Thank you so much for caring. Thank you for sharing all of this. And we hope to have you back soon.
I would love it. Thanks, Dorothy. Keep doing what you're doing, too. You're a great benefit to society.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.